In the next 30 minutes, you'll master 70% of DAX that includes aggregate function, text functions, logical functions, and date and time functions. Now let us first create a sum function. So we'll be creating a sum function for total revenue. So we'll use the total revenue. So right mouse click on new measure. We'll call this as use the sum function. So it's going to be SUM and total revenue. And you can click on this tick mark, which will create a measure now. So now if you want to see, you can just simply create a card and then you can just dump on this field over here. So now this will show us the value. You can change the value to auto or you can change it to none, which will be a big long number. It's better to keep it to auto. You can change the label. So you can change the font, the color, or you can even turn it off. You can also add a title if you want. So if you want to have a title, you can name maybe total or just sales. You can make it center. Now let us create a average function. So right mouse click on new measure, and we can call this as average profit. Average, and we will use fact table. So it's going to be total profit. And now you can copy this, paste it here. So we'll change the field from sales to average profit. And you can change the title as well. So we can call this average profit. So now we can also use minimum and maximum DAX function. So we want to find out the minimum order date and the maximum order date. So which was the earliest order date that we received so far, and what is the latest order date we have received. So we can right mouse click. We can click on new measure. And we can call this as min order date. And we'll type in min, and it's going to be order date. So it's going to be fact sales order date. And now I can copy this, paste it here, change the field. So we use the min order date. You can change the title. It's going to be min order date. Bring it here on the bottom. So it also includes the time. We can change the format to only include short date. And now we can copy this, paste it here. Now we'll get the maximum order date. We can also use the order date from the dimension table. So right mouse click, new measure. We can call this order date or min order date. Oh, sorry, max order date. And type in the max function and order date. We want from dim order table. Click on the tick mark. And now we'll swap the fields. So it's going to be max. And we can change the data type to short date and change the header to max. Now let us get a count of total transactions. So we'll use the count function. So now let us create a new measure, and we'll call this as transaction count. And we'll use the count function, and we will use the transaction ID. Click on the tick mark, copy paste this, and include the transaction count. And we'll change the header to include transaction count. And we'll also change the value. Instead of auto, we'll make it none. Also include a comma. And now we'll copy paste this again. And over here, we'll include transaction count rows. So now let me include another measure. Transaction count rows. And we'll include the count rows function. And add the table name. So the difference between count and count rows is count, you need the table name as well as the field name. But in the transaction, in the count rows function, you just need the table name. So I'll just provide fact sales. Click on tick mark. And over here, we'll change this to transaction count rows. Make this as at the comma. So now both appear to have the same number. So the difference between count and count rows is count can also, it does not include blank or null values, but count rows will also include the null values or blank rows. So let us make some modification to Power Query. So over here we have the transaction ID. So what I'll do is I'll just simply replace a single value. So I'll select this 9 and replace it with blank, or replace it with a space, or replace it with null. Click OK. And now we see a null value. Now I'll load the data and we'll see this will change to 152. As you see, count does not include blank values or null values. So I'll go back to Power Query editor and change and remove this step. I'll select close and apply. Next, let us find out a distinct count which will return unique values in a column or distinct values in a column. So in the fact sales, we want to find out the distinct number of customers. So we have multiple customers that have bought multiple times, but we just want to find out the total number of unique customers. So we'll create one more, copy paste this on the bottom, and we'll call this as, change the title to unique distinct customers. And now let us create another measure. So we'll call this as distinct customers. And we'll use the distinct count and use the customer ID from the fact sales table. And now replace this field. So remove this. Add distinct count. So we have 1,000 customers. So now let us use calculate function. So basically we will calculate the total revenue by product type. So if I go to item type, so I want the total revenue by office supplies. So I'll create a measure. So we'll call this new measure, and we'll call this as total revenue by office supplies, and we'll use the calculate function. So it's going to be sum total revenue. So this is the first argument. We'll close the bracket. So as you see, calculate, the first argument is the expression, and the second argument is the filter. So we can use the filter to exactly calculate the total revenue for office supplies. So we'll use dim product or dim item type. So it's going to be item type, and we'll provide the name as office supplies. We'll close the bracket. And now if I add a card again, copy paste this here, and call out title will be revenue, or we'll call this office supplies revenue. And now we'll change the field. So over here, this is our total revenues for office supplies. So now if I add a filter or a slicer on the top and select item type, change this to drop down and selection, make it all. So now if I change this to baby food, you see this won't change because we have specified what filter it should use. So now if I select office supplies, all the other filters are changing, or all the other values are changing, but the office supplies will stay constant. That's because we have specified that we want the data to be filtered for this item type. Now let's look at the logical function. So we'll create a new page, and now let us create a if condition. So we'll use a calculated column. So click on new column, and we'll call this as high profit in the if condition. So the test is going to be if fact sales total profit equal 1 million, then the profit is high. Otherwise it's normal. And I'll close the bracket. So basically, if the condition matches, then the value it's going to provide is going to be high. If it doesn't match, the value will automatically default to normal. So if I go to table view, and over here I see the if condition. We can also use switch function. So switch function is like case statement in SQL, where you can use multiple condition without using the nested if functions. So we'll use the same example. So we'll create a new column again, and we'll call this as sales segment. And we'll use the switch function. So the first argument is going to be true. Basically, we'll pass the true as the first argument. Then each subsequent condition will be tested. So the first condition is going to be if the total revenue is over 1 million or over 100,000, then it's going to be, the label is going to be bronze. Then we need to provide the second argument. You see under value 2. Over here we'll provide, I'll copy paste this again. Instead of 100,000, it's going to be 1 million. And it's going to be silver. We'll copy the statement again. And this time it's going to be 110 million. This will be gold. And if none of them, if it's above 100 million, then the default value will be platinum. And close the bracket. So now it has populated the value. So switch function is extremely helpful when you have multiple conditions to evaluate. Now, if we want to combine multiple conditions, we can use AND or functions. So now let us create a if condition. If the profit is high and the sales segment is gold, then we want the condition to be, then we want the output to be the initial, which is HG. Otherwise, we want the value to be blank, or we can give another value, which is going to be normal silver. So now let us create another column. And we can call this as qualified transactions. And we'll provide the if function, and we'll combine the AND function as well. And we'll provide the two logical tests. So the first one is going to be if high profit so right mouse click and select new column. And now we can call this qualified transaction equal, and we'll use the if function. And the first logic will be if high profit is equal to high, and the second logical would be if sales segment is equal to gold, close the bracket. We want the value to be HG. Otherwise, we want the value to be just normal. We can click commit. And this is populated the value. So basically, if both the conditions are met, in this case, the first two rows has high and gold, that's why it's showing as HG. But the third row is only showing normal. It's not showing high, that's why it's the value is normal. So one of the conditions are meeting out of two. So now if I change this from AND to OR, this will show as HG for the third row. As you see, now because one of the conditions was met, which was gold, that's why it's showing as HG. But if none of the conditions are met, it will default to normal. So that's the difference between AND and OR. So you can use AND in different ways as well. So instead of using the OR function, what I can do is I can use the double pipe, and this will do the same thing again. Are you tired of wasting hours cleaning messy data or building reports that no one pays attention to? Here's the 3-step framework that we used in this course. In the first phase, you learn about data transformation and prep. You learn about data modeling and analysis. In third phase, you learn about data visualization and reporting. This course is designed for beginners and experienced users who want to work smarter in data analytics. Click below to enroll now. Let's transform how you use Power BI forever. So you see nothing has changed. So this is another way where you can use the OR function or use the double pipe instead of the OR function. And now we can do the same thing with double AND. So you need to use ampersand. And now you see it has changed the value for the third row. So either you can use the function or you can use double AND percent or double pipe for OR. In this video, we'll go through different text functions that we can use. So first we'll start off with concatenate. So we want to combine region and country. So we'll add a new column in the dim location. Click on new column. and type in region and country equal to concatenate. So concatenate only allows two values to be combined. So we'll use region. We also want to use a delimiter, comma. So for the second value, we will add a delimiter and double inverted commas, add a space, close the double inverted commas, and use the %. And now we'll use the country, close the bracket, and now this will add the column. You can do exactly the same thing without concatenate as well. So what you can do is you can just simply remove the concatenate function, use and. This will exactly do the same thing. Remove this bracket. As you see, it has added the same value. So the good thing about using AND is you can add concatenate multiple columns. With concatenate function, you can only combine two different functions or two different columns. You can technically combine multiple columns using the n% within concatenate. So I'll show you shortly. So now let's say if we want to combine location ID as well. Use n%. And we want to combine comma, space, use n%. And now click on the tick mark. We can add a space. So now you have the ID, region as well as country. Now we can you do the same thing using concatenate, but you only have two values. So what you can do is you can remove and from here, and now this will do the same thing. So this exactly does the same thing where you're trying to use n% for one value. Now let's use concatenate x, where we are trying to combine the countries. We want the values of each and every country for that region. So sub-Saharan Africa, we want all the countries under sub-Saharan Africa to be here. Same thing with Europe. All the countries under Europe should show up here. So we'll use concatenate x. So let us just put country x, and this will be concatenate x. So we'll use concatenate x along with the filter function. So we'll use the filter. First we need the table. So the table is going to be dim location. Next, we need the dim region is equal to. Then we'll use the selected value. And selected value will be dim location region. Close the bracket. Close the bracket again, comma. Now we want to get the country. So we'll use the country. And we want to separate it by comma, space. And we can close the bracket. So we basically need to create a measure instead of calculate columns. So I'll just copy this and create a new measure. And I'll call this country X. Click on the tick mark. So I'll call this as country X1. And now if I get a table, do region and do country X1, I basically see all the countries that belong to that region. So this is where concatenate X is helpful, where you want to group values by a certain category. In this case, we wanted to group countries by region. Next, let's look at how we can extract data. So go to dim customer. Go to table view, dim customer. And now we want to extract the extension. So this is .com. So we want to extract the extension of each and every email. So we can use the write function. So we can create a new column. We can call this extension. We can provide the text. So it's going to be email address, and we need to provide the number of characters, which is going to be the last 3, and then close the bracket. And now this has extracted the extension. And if we want to make this uppercase, we can just simply change it to upper and then close the bracket. And now this will change to upper. You can do the same thing. We can keep it lower, and this will change it to lower. So lower, right, email address 3. Now this is changed to lower. The default was already lower, but just to show you the difference. Or we can also change the email address to lower instead of extension. So if I just keep email address, you see now this was proper case, now this is lowercase. Also, we can extract if we want to extract the first character of the initial of the first name, so we can use the left function for that. So it's going to be first name, last name, and the character will be 1. So this will extract the first character for each and every name. Next, we can also use format. So go to fact sales. Let's say if we want to add a dollar sign for total revenue, we can use the format function. So we can create a measure, and we can call this as total revenue dollar sign equal to format, and we'll provide the field name, which is going to be total revenue. Instead of measure, we need a calculated column. Create a new column, and we'll call this as total revenue dollar sign equal to format, and we'll provide the column name, which is total revenue, and we need to provide the format. So it's going to be currency, and click on the tick mark, and now it has added the dollar sign along with the decimal. Format basically converts a value into a text. So this is converted to a text. We can do the same thing for date. So go to dim date, or we can use the order date. So create a new column, and we want the month and the year. So we'll use order date, month and year. So I'll just call it MY, and we'll use the format, then order date, then we'll provide the format. So it's going to be MMMYY, and click on the tick mark. Now this is basically extracted the month and the year. So it's October. You can also change it to just add 2 M's, and this will give you the month number. And if you want the entire month name, you can use 4 M's. You can also use, if you want to add date, click on the tick mark. This will also add the date. If you go to the Microsoft's website, under format function, you will see a whole bunch of different examples that you can use. So you can use it for currency, standard, percentage, scientific, Boolean value, number. You'll also see it for date and time formats. So if you want short date, long date, medium date, over here you have the definition of DD, D, MMM, week number. So basically this will exactly explain you what each and every format does. Now let's look at different date time functions. So basically we can use year, month, date. So over here we have the order date. We can change this to a short date. Since we already have year, month, day, but this was done in Power Query. I can show you the same thing, how it can be done in DAX. So basically we can add a new column and we can call this as year 2. Add the year function and then provide the date. So it's going to be order date. Close the bracket. And over here you have the option. If you want month number, year number, quarter number, we'll just leave it blank, or we won't enter anything. And this will extract the year. Next, we can do the same thing. We can extract the month. The new column. I'll call this as month 2, month, and order date again. And close the bracket. This will extract the month. And I can also extract the date. Order date. Close the bracket. We can also extract the quarter, week number. So let me do new column. I'll call this quarter 2. Use the quarter function and provide the order date as the field. Close it. Now this will extract the quarter. Same thing with week number. Add a new column. Week number. Week number. So date is going to be order date. Close the bracket. And this will extract the week number. So these are few date functions that you should be mindful of. Next, under fact, go under fact sales table, and we can find out the difference between the ship date and order date. So I'll change the ship date to a short date. So click on ship date here and change the format. We'll make it a short date. And now we want to find out the difference. So add a new column and we'll call this as shipping days. And we'll use the date diff function. And the first date we'll provide is order date. And the second date is going to be ship date. Close the bracket. And we want in day. So it provides you the option whether you want to see it in day, hour, minute, month, seconds. So it can be as granular as you want to a second, to as long as in years. So I'll use day. And then I'll click on the tick mark. And now this will provide me with the shipping days. Now let's see how you can use variable. So variables lets you define intermediate expression and it will let you reference them in a final calculation. This helps with readability and performance. So in our case, we want to find out the profit margin. So we'll use total profit and total revenue column. Basically, we can break the DAX code into smaller pieces. So let me create a measure. And I'll call this as profit margin percentage. And I'll first define the first variable. So you need the word VAR, which stands for variable. So now we'll define the first variable. So it's going to be total revenue. It has to be one word. And it's going to be sum fact sales, or you can just type in total revenue. And we'll write the second variable. So it's going to be VAR total profit, sum, total profit. We'll close the bracket over here. And now we'll use divide. We'll create the third variable, which is profit margin. And we'll use the divide function. And we can reference the numerator as total profit. And this will be total revenue. And then we need the return function. And then you need to specify what you want the function to return. In our case, we want to return the profit margin. So basically, this will be the final step. So basically, variable helps you to store small pieces of DAX code or big pieces of DAX code. It makes your code look much cleaner. And anyone can debug this code much easily. So if I click on this tick mark, and so instead of region, let me change this to profit margin. So as you see, now we have the profit margin for each region. You can change this to percentage. So now you are getting the profit margin for each region. So now you can do the same thing, but you have to write 3 different DAX codes or 3 different measures. So basically, we had to create measure 1 for total profit, measure 2 for total revenue, and profit margin percentage as a third measure. So basically, we are combining all these 3 measures into one using the variable method.